So, welcome back to another episode of the Pierce Dispatch. I'm here with North Dakota's Firefighter Association Instructor of the Year, Dickinson's very own Jared Rhode. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. So, you are on Dickinson Fire Department?
Correct.
Captain?
Yeah. I am the training captain.
Okay, how long have you been doing that?
I've been the training captain since January of 2023 when we got the position. It was actually a new position in our department. Before, our chief at the time was in charge of training duties as well, but we split that out because we have such a high demand for training, obviously. So.
Okay, so has there been a high demand the whole time that you've been a firefighter?
There has been a high demand the whole time as a firefighter for sure. However, we've taken on some additional programs that we do. We run a high school Firefighter 1 Academy, and we now have a fire science program at the local college. So adding that on to that role, it was a lot more duties to take on, bigger tasks.
That's great. So when did those initiatives start?
Planning for them started back in 2019, and then as we all know, like COVID 2020 kind of stalled some things out. Coming out of COVID right at the end of 2020, 2021, it would have been January, the high school was like, we want to pull the trigger, let's do it. So we kind of had everything planned, but nothing set in stone, so we kind of threw together. So our go live for the high school program was in the spring semester of the 2021. And now we've been running that ever since. And then the DSU program actually just kicked off this last fall in 2023.
That's great. So have you seen success and interest from the youth?
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, we've trained over 50 students. There was a big push in our community for career academies, essentially. So students can come out of high school with certification. They're maybe not going to college, but they want to get into a trade right away. So that was kind of and this year has actually been our most successful year. Typically with the course we've been graduating, everybody graduates, right? They complete the course, they do everything. But to receive their pro board certification, they have to complete all the testing for that, meet all the requirements. Usually it's been like one student every year, and this year we're up to 3 students. So we're getting better and better every year.
Congratulations. And I'm sure you're finding yourself in a mentor role leading these new firefighters.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a huge benefit, not only for our department, because we can only staff so many people, right? But we've brought in, I believe, 5 or 6 of the graduates on our part-time side of our department. And then, we have looked at bringing them on. Eventually, it gives us more time to vet them on the part-time side and then potentially bring them into full-time roles. But also, it's a benefit to surrounding communities. So we service the whole southwest region of North Dakota. As far as in our area, we offer it to them. So we do have some students that they live in a smaller town where it's a strictly volunteer department, and they're actually receiving more certification than what some of the members that have been on the department for a long time. So it's been very beneficial to the surrounding communities too.
They can share their knowledge with everyone on that department then, and I'm sure it's just benefit all around. So could you share a little bit more about Dickinson Fire Department? Give a little introduction about your department?
Yeah, so Dickinson Fire Department, established 1891. And, it's either July 1st or July 4th. It's who you talk to, so we're not sure. But it's a combination department, so we have career and part-time staff. So on the career side, we have 16 what we would say line firefighters, suppression staff, and then we have I believe there's 7 of us that are administrative, where we're Monday through Friday. The suppression staff, we run a 48-96 schedule, so 2 days on, 4 days off, and we staff 2 stations. Our community is roughly about 26,000 people. So we have an engine company at our downtown station and a ladder company at our station 2. And then the part-time side, we employ about 20 part-time individuals, which these are individuals that have everyday jobs, other occupations, and then they dedicate their time when they're off to supplement us. So if we have an incident that goes beyond a 2-station response, we would upgrade to what we would call a second alarm for our department. And second alarm brings our part-time staff in. They're required to be on call for 48 hours at a time. So they run the same shift schedule, but they run 2 on, and then they have another rotation off before they would come back on call. And then if it goes beyond that, then it's an all-staff type call. Anyone off duty can come in. So,
Sure. Could you just highlight some of the benefits and challenges with having part-time and both full-time
yeah,
staff?
sure. So benefits is it's definitely nice to have that supplemental staff, especially when sometimes it can be hard, going to the commission and asking, we need more staffing. We're seeing increased call volumes. So having the part-time component to come in and supplement us is really beneficial. It's great. Challenging though, it is challenging from a training standpoint. The career staff, this is their job, right? All year long. So with their job, with it being their full-time job, like they're focused on the training constantly and being in the stations every day. Whereas the part-time, we only get so much time with them to train with them. So we have a little bit different plan in place there, but and it can be definitely taxing on them when we are super busy, running a lot of second alarm calls. They're having to leave work, right? So that can be taxing on their jobs. And then the amount of training that we do require now has definitely ramped up from, let's say, 5-6 years ago, where it was a lot less. So
Yeah, absolutely. And so could you just tell me how you balance and meet a happy level of, okay, we're getting everybody trained to the extent that we need them to be, regardless of being part-time, being full-time. How do you balance that?
Sure. So requirements wise, all staff are required to have their firefighter 1, which is your basic, your first level of certification as a firefighter. And then the career staff are required to have EMT as a minimum too. But the part-time staff are required to get firefighter 1 within 2 years of hire onto the part-time side of the department. So everybody's got a baseline there. And then what we do as far as training moving forward from that, we actually hold we have a training every Thursday evening. So the first, second, third, and fourth weeks of the month, we always have a training, and it's specific to different operations. So first week of the month is truck company operations, so everything pertaining to truck work. The second week of the month is more of a meeting where we get together, go over what's going on in the department, events that we have coming up, and then we usually have some sort of lecture or communications training. And then the third week of the month is our rescue company operations, where we get into anything technical rescue based. And then the last or the fourth week of the month is our engine company operations. So everything pertaining to engine company. So,
Mhm. And are there assigned crews to each assignment?
so with the size of our department and our makeup, everybody's versatile, and we're required to know pretty much everything. As far as our part-time side goes, no one is required to be part of like the technical rescue aspect. Everybody kind of finds their niche, right? So they are welcome to come to that, but it's not required. But most people try to make it to. We have a very active part-time component and full-time. It is open to the entire department. So full-time members, part-time members are coming in on those Thursday evenings. That's where they get a lot of their interaction from.
Sure. And how do you decide what topics to train on?
So I like to keep it fresh, right? So I'm always trying to come up with something new, but there's basic stuff, from all those different aspects of things that we need to cover. But what I like to do and what I've gotten into, so we focus on a topic for a quarter. So for 3 months straight, whether we're doing in the truck company ops, if we're covering forcible entry, we're doing all things pertaining to forcible or respectful entry for an entire quarter. And then the same with all the other aspects, with our rescue company operations, we'll focus on high angle, low angle stuff for 3 months at a time, maybe even longer. Now that the weather's nice, we can get out, actually get on site and get out and do some of that stuff. So,
Sure. And where do you find your ideas for new training exercises?
Google's great, Google, Facebook. No, I mean, there's so much out there, right? Like what we're doing right here in the podcast, you can hear things. I know one time this year, in January when the weather's not that great, we actually sat and we listened to a podcast, about search and, the importance of it and things like that. And so there's just so many options out there, right? We have all the knowledge in the world in front of us. So, every department is more than happy to post things about this training or that. And so I'll search, and some guys will bring stuff to me and be like, "Hey, can we take a look at this or whatever?" Yeah, absolutely. Let's check it out. If we think it's something that we want to go forward with and try, for sure.
And could you just provide some advice for departments who maybe have very large gaps in experience? So maybe they have a bunch of new firefighters and a bunch of firefighters who are maybe nearing retirement. Do you have any advice for training exercises for them or mentorship?
Um, so yeah, sure. Absolutely. Our department, honestly, in Dickinson is very young. So, I've been with the department for 8 years, and, since the time I started, we had a large group of, members that had a lot of experience. They're on the department for a long amount of time. And now, I think our average age on the department is like 30 years old. So it's very young. So yeah, we've definitely experienced those gaps. What I like to do, and I try to do, during our weekly trainings, is, get the older, I say older, the more experienced individuals, the opportunity.
Sure. And could you just explain a little bit? So you talked about how you have quarterly topics
Yep.
for each area that you train in.
Yeah.
Could you just tell me how you would measure the results of them, or if you should be further educating, or okay, we need to definitely repeat this topic. It was so beneficial.
Sure. Honestly, after every training, we debrief, and I mean that's huge in the fire service. After every call, we debrief, right? What could we do better? Because there's always, we're never perfect, right? Things can go great, but there's still something that we're going to be able to pick apart. We need to improve upon. So we do that after training as well. We do it as a big group. All right, how does everybody think everything went? What could we do differently next time? And if it was a success, maybe we don't need to do it again. But, one of the things that, specific to your question, during the summer months when it's nice, I like to be out at the training site as much as possible. We have our burn building going, and we're running evolutions because, fortunately for our community, we don't get a lot of structure fires. But for us, right, we want to go to those types of incidents and prepare for them. So, we set up evolutions during the summertime, and we're just running them straight. Like, we got dispatch firefighter, we're getting on scene and doing all things fireground related. Those have been super beneficial for our department, for the full-time and the part-time side, just to see the inner workings of everything, because we don't get to do that super often. So at the end of each evolution, we may get through 3 or 4 a night. But after the beginning, there's a debrief, right? All right, what do we need to change? What do we need to do differently? And that's how we really evaluate for the most part. And then there's always conversations after trainings, with our officer group, and just, well, what did we think? Do we need to spend some more time on that? For instance, our rescue, our rope rescue stuff, we just got a whole new cache of equipment, updated everything, and it was coming to the end of the quarter, but it's like, well, we got all this new equipment. We need to figure it out now. So we'll spend another 3 months. So we can always adjust the schedule. I'm always willing to change things up. So,
I think it's important to have that flexibility. And
yeah.
I really liked how you talked about debriefing.
Yeah.
Could you just share, are there any other best practices that you implement with training and exercises?
Well, safety is always number one, right? We try to be as safe as possible. When we're training. However, sometimes things happen. The more you train, the more you get out there and do it, the more hours that we're putting into it. There's always that potential. So other best practices, and I talked a little bit before about, involving, some of our younger members in the planning for it. But honestly, I like to try and involve, um, guys that are passionate about certain topics, I want them involved in the planning for the training, right? I think it's great to empower your people through, and training is one of the biggest ways that you can empower someone. You might not be able to promote people or give them more pay sometimes, but hey, I want you to help me out with this training. I want you to help me plan this out, and let's make it as beneficial as we possibly can. When you give people that ability to have a stake in it, right? They're going to really take that initiative, and it helps better them as a firefighter. And then it's going to eventually, ultimately benefit the department too, when they have that ability to help have a piece of the planning and the implementation things.
So, what is the best advice you could give to trainers out there?
So to a trainer listening to this, I think the best piece of advice, it would be to just really listen to your people. Don't be afraid. If they have an idea, they ask a question like, hey, can we try this? And I talked about that a little bit earlier. Yeah, take a look at it. I had a guy, and I talked about it too, was with the night that we listened to a podcast for training. Okay. It was a 2.5 hour podcast. We sat down in a room, I told everybody like, all right, but people were so engaged to that. I had a guy come into my office on Monday morning, whatever, is like, hey, have you seen this podcast? And I'm like, no, but I've heard of the gentleman. And from Search Culture, and I took a listen to it all during the day. I was listening to it bits and pieces, and I'm like, all right, this is really good stuff. Like, I think it's going to open some eyes in our department. So when somebody brings something to you as the training officer, as the trainer, don't be afraid to like give it a go. Give them an opportunity. Again, that is going to empower that person and have such an impact on them. Like you care about what they want to see, and giving them the opportunity to help out in the department. So
I hope everybody listens to that piece of
Yeah.
advice, because it's very, very well and very versatile answer. It can go apply to anything. Okay, so you are in at Pierce with a new delivery. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so this is our first truly custom truck for the Dickinson Fire Department. We have, obviously we spec'd out trucks before, but this is super custom. And it is it's one of many firsts, I guess. So we currently have 2 aerial apparatuses, but this will be our first aerial platform, or our first tower, as we're calling it. So we have a Pierce aerial 100-foot stick. It's like a 1995, super nice truck still, right? But it was time for replacement. So we ordered a 100-foot platform, and we did the black over red, which our whole fleet right now is white over red. So with new administration, our chief was like, we need to change our branding a little bit, change some things, and black over red's becoming popular across the nation. But this is fully black over red. Like there's pretty much no chrome or anything on it. Everything is blacked out, rhino lined, all of that. So yeah, it is awesome. Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. So
Absolutely. So, with this being your first truly custom build, can you tell me about some of the features that were critical and necessary to include?
Yeah, sure. So, well, I mean, the biggest thing is that with it being a platform, the versatility that we're going to have with a platform versus just a straight stick now, that's a huge factor for us. This is also going to be our first truck that has a Q siren on it. I think we talked about that earlier today, and it was like, well, why did you do that? It's because why wouldn't we? They're awesome. So, but honestly, we've never had one before. Guys love them. They wanted it. Like, let's do it. We have the bell on the front of the truck. It's very symbolic to the fire service, right? So that was something that we were super excited about. And the crew cab, I mean, just from the front to the back, the seats that we put in it, we put in the premium seats, and like, this one's it's funny, and guys joke about it, but like premium cup holders, it was, well, yeah, we need cup holders. Like that's one of the, it's little things like that the guys appreciate. And then having an actual radio in it, like an AM FM Bluetooth radio, like none of our trucks have that. So we're like, oh, so we can jam out a little bit, obviously not when we're responding to emergencies, but driving around town, doing stuff like that, training. So it's cool. Um, and then this is, all of our aerial apparatuses are they're quints. So we have pump on it. And just the Pierce design of the pump panel and everything, very sleek. We're super excited about that and how we have that all spec'd out and set up. The compartment space overall, we just did a lot of different things that in the past that we didn't have the opportunity to, or we never looked into doing, just with customization in the compartments themselves with pull-out trays, tool boards, swing-out tool boards. I think our group has done an awesome job at putting together the spec.
Sure. And with your compartmentation, did you plan what's going exactly in each spot, or are you going to figure that out when it gets home?
Absolutely. So all of our trucks are set up very similar. Both engines, both aerials currently. We have specific compartments for things. We feel that it's just super important because, with the amount of staffing that we have, if a truck does go down, if an engine goes down and we end up jumping on the other engine, it's nice to have them set up the exact same. So there's not this crossover and you're having to move things around, or you get unseen and you don't know where this is at. So that was definitely in the back of our minds the whole time we were setting this truck up. Like, we want it set up the exact same that we have ladder 2 set up. So, yeah, for sure. There's definitely some forethought to that. So
Sure. And so when this truck gets home, how will you approach training your firefighters on it?
So one of the nice things that we'll have scheduled out is the 3-day training that the Pierce technician will come out and train us everything on it, which is awesome. Because again, this is our first platform, so a lot of different things that we don't even know how to do. As we're walking around in the bay out there doing the final, it was like, well, how does this work, and what do we do for this? And so that'll be super beneficial. But there's also some other things that I'm looking into as far as bringing some people in to train us with a platform versus, we're used to just having a straight stick. So there's definitely going to be months of training on this apparatus. And then as far as our drivers, we'll definitely have some time behind the wheel and just getting used to the operations of it, maneuvering of it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Can you tell me how your new platform will benefit your department in responses?
So the platform is going to be huge for us. As I mentioned a little bit earlier about just having the versatility of a platform, being able to do things that we weren't able to before. We can put guys in the basket, we can ride it up. Whereas you have to be a little bit more cautious if you're, maneuvering. They have the ability to maneuver that platform, and with our amount of staffing, limited to 3 per truck, having the ability for someone to run the controls and not always relying on the operator to do that. They may be involved with getting something else put together. So, and just from a safety factor, having the ability to step off the platform onto a roof for things of that nature, or for rescue purposes, having the ability to use it as an elevated, in a standpipe situation. Just tons of options that we're super excited that we're going to have the ability to do now.
So, could you tell me a little bit about your relationship with your dealership and your sales rep?
Absolutely. So this is our first truck working with McQueen Emergency, and our sales rep, Scott Berge, has been awesome throughout this whole process. Our chief really believes on building relationships with dealers, and creating that. And Scott has been awesome throughout this whole process. Anything that we need, any questions we have, literally we've called him at random times, like, hey, what about this? What about that? And been super helpful. There's a lot of things that we didn't know about, as far as, and we talked about this custom truck, right, that we built. And he was awesome to deal with this whole time. Probably the best sales rep I've ever met. So yeah, awesome. If you don't work with Scott Berge, you never have. You should definitely.
I'd say that was quite the shout out. I'm
Yeah,
glad you've
yeah.
had that experience. So, I have to ask, were you named the best mustache on your department?
I was. We have a pretty good social media following for our department. I think we have 35,000 followers right
What's your
now.
handle for your department?
The Dickinson Fire Department.
Everybody go follow.
Yeah, go follow, like, and follow the Dickinson Fire Department. Our chief will be super happy. He's the mastermind behind it. He's really pushed in the last year for our social media following. But he did put out a mustache contest, and it was a hit with the community. We're very involved in our community, and that's why he's pushed on the Facebook so much. People love it. We do some funny, witty posts. Yeah, definitely check it out. But I did win the competition, and we do have some great mustaches. However, a lot of those guys don't stay dedicated to it. They grow it for a portion of the year and shave it off. I think I've had this for about 5 years now. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it too. Thank you.